Hello, guys.
Hola.
Hi. How are we all tonight?
Very tired. How are you?
I'm okay. All things considered.
I like this sock combo.
Yes. It's the Mordhau colors.
Then let him outside.
Okay. So, can everybody hear me and see me okay?
Yeah,
Good. It's not the wrong way this time?
not this time.
Good. Okay. So, just so that you guys know, before we get started, I'm starting to put the class descriptions and like who's teaching and what they're teaching on the website under our schedule. It's not on like the main top row. You have to like go into the drop down menu to find the schedule. But for those of you that don't know, our website is www.swordfightaz.com. And then on the schedule, I'm just updating the calendar to include what classes are happening and who's teaching what, if they're lectures, if they're workouts, stuff like that. So just in case you wanted to know ahead of time what it was. So
Just don't type out the Z part. It's just the Z.
okay.
It had to be done.
It's my Canadianism. It's not going away. So anyway, so that exists. Swordfight AZ. And then since I have a few of you here listening, Doug Bostic is teaching class on Monday night. Monday is not going to be like a normal regular thing, but we're just adding it into the schedule to sort of accommodate some new people's scheduling as well. So Doug is teaching as a guest instructor on Monday. So that'll be really good. And then everything else is business as usual with Kyle on Tuesday, Sean on Wednesday, and then myself Friday, Sunday. But I'm talking with a few HEMA instructors right now to see if they're interested in doing some online classes for you guys as well. So, stay tuned on that. Okay, so am I still in frame? We're good here?
Yeah, you're not centered, but you are in frame.
Is this centered?
A little more to your right. The other way. Yeah.
Right here. So my next question then is, can you see my feet?
Yes,
Okay.
I can.
Good. That's the important part because today we're going to just do footwork. So Sean has done a really good job with you guys the last couple nights on Wednesdays, kind of going over some of the biomechanical stuff in terms of like the chain kind of link between the hips, the knees, and the feet. So I'm going to sort of expand on that a little bit and make it more footwork focused as opposed to, the really useful exercises that he's provided for you guys. It's a little bit specific for what we're doing. So to get things started, it's going to be really basic just to begin with. So like I said earlier in the Discord, this can just be like you can just watch and pay attention and sort of just take notes if you want and hang out. Or you can do this stuff with me at the same time. But it's not really going to be a amount of really. So that's what we're going to do. So if you guys don't mind, I'm going to just do some really quick light stretching just to get started so I don't pull anything because I'm getting old. And if you intend to do this with me, I would suggest the same. Otherwise, just sit back and watch, which sounds weird. But anyway, that's what I'm doing. So if you're doing it with me, I'm going to start with big arm circles forward. And then I'm going to come down and hinge at the hip. Touch the floor. Hold for just a sec. And relax coming out of it with big arm circles. We're gonna go back. And now I'm gonna keep my feet planted in place, but I'm going to turn at the core so that my hips stay isolated. So I'm just using my core, serratus, my obliques, to just turn the shoulders over the hips while keeping my hips stationary. So I'm going to do that alternating side to side. Good. So that ends up giving me some nice mental notes for myself to remember to be able to control my hips and my shoulders. Even though when we're fighting, we want to, for the most part, be able to keep them together as we're moving. But in order to do that properly, I think we need to have a little bit of a mental link between the two, and knowing that you can actually move them separately if you want to, right? Just move the hips if you want to, or the shoulders if you want to. And when you're doing that and you're controlling that, it's much easier for you to actually think about moving the hip and the shoulder together. So that's one thing you can always do in your warm-up is isolating certain things. In this case, hips, shoulders. Okay, do a couple little quad stretches here. If you're doing this with me, I'm grabbing the top part of my foot here, and I'm keeping this right under my hip. So I'm not flaring my leg out like this. I'm just gonna grab it, and it's gonna stay straight down to here. And then as I do that, find my balance here, there we go. I'm now going to press my foot into my hand. Oh gosh, if I can find my own balance here. There we go. Okay, pressing the foot into the hand. And that just gets a little bit more of a stretch through here. If you need to grab a wall or something to hang on to, that's totally fine. Other side. Pressing into the hand. You want to get fancy with it, you can start doing these kind of things, but not necessary. Okay. Last one I'm going to do, just to kind of warm myself up, I'm going to bring my knee straight up, like so, here, and then I'm going to bring it out as close to 90 degrees, and then back down, and then reset, like so. Okay, and to do that probably about 5 times each side, so I'll just count alternating 1 through 10. Okay, very good. So now, footwork. I say this all the time, I say this often. Footwork is, in my opinion, more important than anything you're going to do with your sword. You can have all the fancy handwork you want in the world, but if your feet can't keep you safe, neither will your sword, right? Our feet are what determine our measure, our timing, distance, all these things, the ability to move laterally around our opponents. So, if I don't have good footwork, I'm sort of dead in the water. So that's what we're going to work on today. So, first we need to find our fighting position, right? This varies from person to person, depending on the pelvic flexibility, and a lot of other little biomechanical details, but for the most part, by and large, if you're just kind of chilling out, right, and you've got your feet about hip shoulder width apart-ish, give or take, right? This is just like my neutral. I don't want to fight like this isn't good. But if I take, let's say, a step forward, right now I'm not bending my knees, right? But having a staggered position is sort of where we want to start. Now, hopefully you can kind of see, because I'm facing you, if I just take this step forward, my feet are still really narrow, but they're not in line, right? So my heel is not in line with my back foot. So that's good. That's sort of like step one, is you do not want your heels in line. So you want to have your feet apart. Now, from here, we also need to bend our knees. So if I bend my knees, that's fine. I don't have a lot of range of motion just dropping in such a narrow stance. So instead, I need to widen it out a little bit. I'm going to do that like so. Now, doing this, my back foot here can be turned out slightly. I don't need to have my front foot straight with my knee straight, and then my back foot straight with my knee straight. This just like probably looks really awkward, I'm sure. So it is okay for your back foot to turn out. What we want to avoid is something like past our 90 degrees, like so. I mean, this just looks ridiculous as well. It's very uncomfortable in general, but this is like an unnecessary exaggeration of my back foot. So instead, as I come into my fighting position, I've got a good amount of space between my feet. I'm staggered, so not super narrow. I've got a nice bend in the knees, okay? So now I'm gonna face the other way, profile to you. Hopefully my voice like carries properly, but that way you can kind of see a little bit more. My fighting position here, again, back foot is turned. My hips, I don't want to be facing like this. Even though my foot is forward, I don't want my hips this way. So I've seen people like fight like this. They kind of like have to crab walk around. It's kind of weird. The hips are straight. There can be a slight turn in them, right, to adjust our position. That's okay. But again, we want to avoid these really polar extremes of like really far one way or really far the other way. But for the most part, my hips are nice and square. Okay. So again, nice bend in the knees. I don't want to exaggerate this, right? There's no need for me to fence here. It's also really not sustainable in terms of being able to hold this position and move in it. I also don't want to be staggered but super upright. So nice bend in the knees. Now, with that said, I also want, when I'm just in my fighting position right now, I want 50-50 weight. Okay? So I've got my weight evenly distributed between both feet. I'm not forward weighted. I'm not back weighted. I'm exaggerating here, obviously, right? But I want to make sure that I'm keeping my weight pretty centered. This allows me to be able to change my movement quite dynamically without having to first shift my weight. So what I mean by that, I'm back weighted here, but I want to move forward. I have to then move my weight forward before I can actually move my body forward. So if I'm here, I'm back weighted, then I step. So I want to avoid that. That's a waste of energy, it's a waste of time. So if I'm nice and equal, 50-50, right in the center, it's much easier for me to redistribute my weight accordingly. So that's what we're looking for. Now I know I said this about footwork, so intuitively we should be focusing on just feet. But there's a little bit more to it. The whole body's connected, right? All the muscle chains. So I want to make sure that when I'm in my fighting position, I'm not leaning back away from it, right? I don't want to be here. Again, that's back weighted, but I'm also creating this like huge arch in my back, which I don't want. So this would be like an intense anterior pelvic tilt. Super uncomfortable, but some people just like have it from like naturally bad posture, unfortunately. But it leads to really like weird fencing. It has a lot of difficulty. And anterior pelvic tilts this way, where the back arches in and the butt starts out. This ends up creating glute weaknesses, and then the knee starts turning in, or other problems as well, weaknesses in the hips. So to avoid that, one, need health or physiotherapy for long-term adjustments and this sort of thing, especially with really deep anterior pelvic tilt. But in terms of fencing, I'm gonna just bring this up a little bit so you can see my hips. Instead of coming up here with my butt sticking out, I want to bring my hips forward so that they're nice and centered. Now that also goes with a pelvic tilt the other way, right? I can start like coming really far forward, and that ends up with you can get like a kyphosis in the back and stuff. So I don't want my hips super like turned in. I don't want them super turned out. Middle. Okay. Hopefully I'm profile enough for you to see that. We'll see. I'll see it later in the video, I guess. So now when everything is locked down, when I've got my feet in a nice position, 50-50 weight, knees are bent, hips are straight, hips are also not anteriorly tilted. The bottom half, pretty solid, okay? The other part of the footwork is what's up here. So again, if I'm rounding the shoulders, this naturally pulls my weight forward. Even if I'm trying very hard to be forward weighted, center weighted, if I start coming here, the sword pulls me, I'm naturally more forward weighted, right? My center is not actually centered. So I want to make sure that I'm bringing the shoulders back, pulling the lats down, keeping a nice strong posture the whole way through. This ends up making footwork like glide a lot easier altogether. So something to kind of keep in mind. Now, knee positions. Sean talked about this the other night. Really, really common to see fencers with collapsing knees. If I'm being really lazy, I also have it too. Or if I'm being like, or not even being, if I am just really tired after a lot of fencing, this is my like lazy default, is right around here. This is bad. I have this issue for a few reasons. After 2 back-to-back car accidents, like 30 days apart, I ended up having a labral tear in the hip and a lot of other injuries throughout the pelvis. So it's actually much harder for me to fix that muscularly, but I did a lot of physical like rehab and stuff, active rehab. It was really helpful. So now I have a lot more control in my body to be able to pull my knee back into place. So that's what we want to do. Sean obviously provided some workouts for that, I think. The wall drill where you want to like be parallel to a wall, really helpful. I think he talked about the, what is it called? Resistance band, there we go. And using that to sort of force the knees away. What we're training to do is to have the foot or the toes, the ankle, the knee, the hip, all on the same plane, okay? So whether I'm facing forward here to you, in which you can see my toe, my knee, and hip, ideally, hopefully, if you're kind of right in front of me, should be right on the same line, okay? Now, same with here. Harder to tell on this side, obviously, but I want to avoid things like, again, back weighting. You can see my knee starts coming out of alignment. Okay. So to fix that, it is a glute issue, mostly, like 95% of the time. So if you feel that your knee is caving in a little bit, think about, this sounds so weird, but think about squeezing your butt. Just squeeze it, and it just goes right back. The trick is to hold it, or to be able to have the muscular tone to actually keep that in place as we move. Okay. What we want to avoid is the quick fix option, which is if the knee is collapsed, you want the knee pointing forward, cheat to it is turning the foot out. Okay? This is also bad. One, it can save your knees, but it can end up hurting the ankles, right? There's a lot of moving parts in the ankles, lots of little small bones and ligaments. We do not want the ability to like end up going past or rolling the ankle or doing anything like that. So turning the foot out to fix the knee position is something we want to avoid, even short term. Instead, we should be working on doing exercises maybe together in class and stuff to end up strengthening the muscles we need to be able to pull the knee back out. Okay. Any questions so far about just being in a fighting stance? No? Okay. Good. I figure most of you that are in here watching this class tonight know about that fighting stance, but I also know we've got a few new people that have come in this week, so just want to make sure everybody's on the same page. And if I didn't mention it, I don't think I did. Your fighting stance can be right foot forward or left foot forward. Both are fine. You will use both. And that's that. So that's good. So fighting stance is good. So for footwork, the first one I want to start with is just a basic advancing step. Physically, this is not the easier one to do, but I think it'll help build the muscle memory that we need to carry on into some of the easier steps. So an advancing step in our club is simply just advancing the lead leg, right? So when I take a step forward, my right foot's forward right now, it's going to stay right foot forward. So my lead leg hasn't changed. I'm remaining on my right side. So the way to do that, you want to stay on the balls of the feet. Okay. I don't want to end up using like heel-toe motions. Am I too far away for you guys to see this? Do I need to come closer?
I can see you.
Good. Thank you. Captive audience. Okay. So if we're in our fighting position, right? My back foot has a little bit of turn. Everything here is nice and lined up. What I want to do, my back foot ends up giving me my forward pressure. Okay? It's going to create the kinetic energy forward that I need to move. So I'm going to come up. I'm doing this with a pivot on the ball. Okay? I'm not heel weighted. I don't know how to do that with the heel. I don't know. I'm just saying. But I am rolling onto the ball of my foot, bringing my hip forward, pushing with the back foot, like so. Okay. But my right foot, my dominant foot, moves first. Okay. I am ending up in the same fighting position I started in. So I don't want to not be in the same position. Or for example, so again, you start in one position. For this step in particular, for this exercise, you're going to end in the same position. Back foot is going to turn. As you do that, the hip is going to pull forward, straight forward. So with the fighting position, I said the hips are nearly square. You're not fighting totally square and up on the back of the foot. It's going to be slightly turned, and that's fine. Creates an open hip. We're going to close the hip, again, moving up onto the back foot on the ball. And this hip pulls forward, as if it was on a string. Okay? Again, this foot pushes, this foot moves. I am landing on the ball of my foot as well on my dominant side. Very common to see heel toe, which would be like this. Okay. We want to avoid the heel toe roll. So instead, we're going to land ball of the foot to the flat and then to the heel. Like so. Hopefully the mats don't shift under you when you do it, but you know, I think Sean mentioned last night how different sorts of surfaces and flooring types actually end up changing our footwork. I probably won't get into that tonight, but it is something to consider for sure. The way that we want to move on uneven ground is different than how we would move on flat, smooth surfaces or flat textured surfaces like this. So, again, our advancing step turns up onto the ball of the foot. Kinetic energy comes from the back. Now, as I step, you'll notice I end up back with my foot being on an angle. So I'm not advancing like this. This ends up coming back down on the pivot. When I say balls of the feet, I mean like lightly balls of the feet. Don't overdo it. Don't like give me werewolf legs and things like this. Right? I will tell you this is extremely difficult to do. It's very painful and it will wreck your knees. No need to be that exaggerated in the balls of the feet. That's just where my weight is. That's where the pressure is. I do always want to be able to recover onto like a full flat foot. But I never want to be caught flat-footed. So that's why we're going to stay a little bit on the balls of our feet, sort of like a boxer. But again, not over-exaggeratedly. Over-exaggeratedly so? That's, I don't know if that's the right word. Anyway, so that's what we're going for. That's our advancing step. Again, you can do that with your right foot or your left foot. Whichever foot is forward, regardless of which one it is, the forward one is your lead. Go figure. So when we do this left foot forward, same thing applies. Boom. That's it. There's no rule change between doing it left foot forward or right foot forward. It's the same. Any questions so far? We're good?
For me.
No? Okay. Good. Now, it is still freaking 87 degrees in here. Holy moly. 87. One of these days I'm going to have to figure out if I can run the AC and the video at the same time. Not this day. So I'm going to take a quick water break and scavenge for a bottle of water, which I know there exists some. So give me 2 seconds. If you need a sec, or you want to grab water, or you want to adjust your position on the couch or whatever, do that now. Okay. So, I went to fix glasses that were on my face. Okay, so back to it. We've covered our advancing step. Pretty simple. Like I said, physically doing it is not the easiest one to do. This step is a little bit more advanced. But I like to start people off with it because they tend to focus a little bit more on all of the muscles and movements involved. So that's good. So we want to keep this stuff in mind as we do this. The retreating step is just the opposite of our advance. Okay? So in my fighting position, I'm going to retreat, keeping the same lead leg. So again, when we advance the lead leg. Now, we're going to retreat the lead leg. Same thing. Okay? Except this time I'm pushing from the front foot here. Instead of pushing forward with the back, I'm going to be pushing back to the front. So I'm priming the front foot. Okay? I'm going to push back. However, my back foot moves first. Again, always on the balls of the feet. So I'm not leaning back onto my heel as I do this, right? Hopefully you can see the difference between doing the heel and doing the ball of the foot. Okay. Again, you can do that on either side. Same thing. We also want to avoid dragging the feet. Okay. When we take our retreating step, I want to make sure I'm pushing with this. The reason I'm emphasizing pushing with the front foot is because I want to avoid stepping and then dragging. And instead, I'm using my muscles to pull my leg back as opposed to push my leg back. Okay? We want to avoid feet dragging. We'll get into feet dragging again in a minute. I have a horrible, gruesome story about it. Apparently, it happened twice, but we'll get there. So retreating step can happen on the left side or the right side. Same thing. These are not huge steps. They don't have to be, right? They don't cover as much distance. They're very small. I have to stop saying that. I just need to say small, like a normal person. So I'm not necessarily trying to cover a lot of ground with my retreating steps. I could take very large retreating steps, but that requires a little bit more energy, and it's not always necessary. For the most part, though, they don't cover as much ground. Any questions about retreating steps? They're kind of weird, a little bit more difficult. So if there are questions, don't feel bad. No? Good?
No.
Good. Okay. So advanced retreating. We're going to talk about passing. So passing step, instead of advancing or retreating our lead leg, we are now passing our lead leg. So right now I have my left foot forward. Pass. I create a lead, I pass my old lead, create a new. Okay? I'm passing my leg. That's it. It's the closest step we have to walking, except, like Sean explained, we're not falling and catching ourselves. Okay? I'm going to, the same way I set up my advancing step, my back foot is going to prime up onto the ball, bringing my hip in line. This is important. If the hip doesn't come in line like this, and it stays here, instead of pulling the leg straight through, we end up doing a swing. Okay? I'm, of course, exaggerating this a little bit more than most people do it, because usually people do this, and they end up swinging. We don't want to do that. Instead, we want to bring this leg straight through to the other side. I don't know if Sean did this guys or not, but a really good exercise if you have a dance bar, if you have a wall, whatever. Literally just practice swinging your leg right underneath yourself, like this. Because if you do this, this makes more sense than trying to swing it like this. It's just not natural. It doesn't move that way. Think about it like that. I'm through. Now, of course, the fundamental difference between what I just did at the wall and here is I'm not kicking my leg through. Right? Pull it through again as if somebody has tied a string on my knee and pulled it through. Okay? So again, I think Sean talked about a exercise last night, not last night, where you're focusing on turning just the hip. Now. Yeah. Okay. So, who's doing dishes? I'm
I
sorry.
think Michael, he's the one not muted. But can you repeat what you just said because it cut out?
I'm sorry, I didn't know that the mic was off.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's confusing. Okay, sorry about that.
If I'm cutting out, I think, and this is just my understanding of WebEx, I think it's because it's picking up the sound of the other person talking or making sound. So if there's a noise in the background and your mic is on, I think it automatically switches to you and off of me. I think. I don't know. That's my theory. So if that's the case, I will just politely ask, mute your mics, and then when you want to ask a question, and you can at any time, that's totally fine, just unmute it, but don't leave it on, if that makes sense. It might help reduce the cutting out, I think. So, okay. What is it, I know you didn't hear it, but what is it that needed to repeat? Part about bringing the foot through?
You said Sean talked about, and then
Okay, so on Wednesday, Sean talked about an exercise that was getting the hip motion. I can't remember exactly what he did, but I believe it was something similar where you're just priming the hip again and again and again. That's what we want. So utilize what he showed you because it is directly applicable to doing this motion. That's it. That's all it was. Just linking back to Sean's class again.
thank you.
Yes. So now again, I'm going to come back up onto the ball of my foot, which ends up bringing my hip forward. I'm going to push with my back foot, like we did with our advancing step. And it comes through. As it comes through, I'm going to land on the ball of my foot, much like we do with our advancing step. The only difference is that instead of advancing the same leg, I'm now passing it. So I'll do it from this side for you guys to see. Back foot primes, bring my hip nice and straight. Again, we're keeping the knee, the foot, the hip nice in alignment. I'm going to then press off from my back foot to pass through. I land on the ball of my foot as opposed to here. As I'm moving through, my other leg pivots. We'll do it this way. There. So this one is going to be passed, right? I'm going to pass through this way. Boom. Now, as I step, this foot is going to pivot again on the ball of the foot. And that way I end up back in my fighting stance. Without that pivot, I end up here, which is different. This is sort of the initiation of like a lunge, for example, to here. A little different, right? There's still a pivot though. So we don't want to remain stationary on the foot that's passing, right? It has to move somehow. Otherwise it's like really weird, like serious, what is it? Dorsiflexion or something. Whatever it's called. Yeah, dorsiflexion? Pronation. Dorsiflexion? Pronation. Anyway. So I need to pivot. That's the key. And again, balls of the feet. That's what we want, balls of the feet. So we can do this on either side, as I just demonstrated. Boom. Or other side. Boom. Okay. Questions about passing steps so far? Okay, very good. So now we've sort of moved in straight lines. Okay. Sean covered this as well. This is basically me just like riding Sean's coattails for class. Thanks, Sean. He had mentioned that there was a drill he did where it's like, okay, go and then push, and you have to like prevent yourself from like falling into it and catching yourself to move laterally. This is very true, especially with our passing steps, right? If I'm priming my hips, I don't necessarily have to come straight through. This is good. But there's nothing stopping me, actually, if you guys can see the lines on the floor here, the grid of the mats, are you able to see those?
Kind of.
There's something in the roof again. Oh, that is creepy. It sounds big, like a raccoon. Anyway, sorry. So can you kind of see the grid on the floor a little bit? Okay. So right, I have my foot lined up on the floor. So if I step straight, it's right on the line, right? B. Okay. I can do this same step off to the side. However, I then need to just bring my hips back into position. Because if I'm facing this way, I don't want my hips over here. I want them over here to be able to engage again, right? So again, you can use it to start moving laterally. To tie that back into what Sean was saying the other night, as I go to move, I don't want to lean and then catch myself. This is very much remaining a nice upright posture, center weighted again, not creating forward weight or back weight. Nice and centered, grinding, stepping, pivoting. Okay? The pivot is not always necessary that much. You will start to learn how much little shifts and details you need to get your hips in the right position. That's a little bit more like feeling based and intuitive for yourself. It takes some time to learn. So don't be too hard on yourself if you don't get it right away. You start to develop a sense for it. Okay. Now, we had also talked about, I say we, as if Sean and I did that class together. We did not. Sean did. Sean talked about triangle steps. Okay? These are steps that basically just create a triangle. So I can step, for example, just totally linear. So, technically a triangle step, right? As I'm going from side to side, it's creating like a little V pattern, right? Now, I can use this in different ways. Instead of just coming totally like sideways, one side to the other, I can take a passing step forward, pivot again on the front foot, and I've moved, right? This is still a triangle step. Okay? So this is a little different. It's not just simply pass, 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 pass. Your back foot realigns to wherever you want it to be. Okay? Being able to make this shift is super, super important and very helpful when we're sparring. You'll probably see like myself or Kyle, if you watch us spar, Tony's really good at this too. You come in and out, in and out with our passing steps, right? Covering a lot of ground in a lot of different ways. All I'm using is just my passing steps. That's it. But I'm doing so, keeping my hips nice and aligned. My weight is centered, flowing through the balls of my feet, and I'm not swinging my hips, right? Keeping them nice and steady as I'm flowing through, like so. Any questions so far? Just making sure you all are keeping up with me. No? Okay, very good. The ladder. So it depends on what you're trying to do. And that's why footwork is so important. Probably more important than your hand. So let's say, ooh, I'll use this. you all see the board? Yes?
Yeah.
Good. So from here, I want to touch the board. But I want to touch the board in one step. Can I do it with an advancing step? Probably not, right? Not even close. Can I touch it with a passing step? Heck yeah. Right? However, if this is a person, let's say, and they're not, I should have brought Kyle, my bad. And I want to throw a cut to an opening. I see that they're open in a certain way. And I want to do, now of course we're not planning this out as we go, right? I'm not just like, I'm gonna do this, and this, and I'll hit them the fourth time I make my action. No. This is all happening in the moment, right? Let's say I get caught, I'm left foot forward, but he's moving this way, and I'm throwing my overhand. What I would need to take a passing step, right? Boom. But let's say he's coming forward into me, but I still want to throw my overhand. There is nothing wrong with me taking a smaller step back, for example, and turning it into a Zorn. Boom. So I also want to be careful of taking steps that bring me too far into measure, right? So let's see if this works. Best way to do sword class, guys. Oh! So this, let's say, is my opponent's extended measure. Right. At this point, I'm like kind of in their measure if they were to like extend, let's say. Now I want to be able to touch them. My best bet is a passing step, but it's not necessarily useful for me to take a huge passing step here. Right? Not unless I'm doing something to displace their sword on the way in. So maybe I want to take a lateral step here. Or an advancing step here to bait them into doing something. So it's a little bit of both. Because you can't, I say can't with a little star above it, a little asterisk. You cannot do a crump, let's say, for example. I mean, you could. Technically, the cut action is this. I can do this just standing here. Right? But a good sound crump requires this. My right foot going one way, tip of my blade going the other. Boom. It's much less effective if I do it like this. Right? So the footwork is sort of dependent a little bit on your cut. It's also very dependent, more so dependent on your measure. You can't get hit and you can't be hit if you're not in range for those things to happen. But then there's sort of the chicken and the egg question of like, does your footwork dictate the cut or does your cut dictate the footwork? I have not philosophically delved into that question yet. I'm sure somebody has like a really brilliant answer from some obscure source they read about which happens. But I think my answer is time and place, and it depends, circumstantially. But your footwork should be keeping you safe in terms of measure, but also in terms of just like your physical, not fitness, but what's the word I'm looking for? You don't want to do bad footwork that could possibly injure you, such as doing a crump like this, like turning the knee, torquing the knee in a weird way, stuff like that. So we want to make sure our footwork is sound structurally to keep us safe in a fight, but also to keep our bodies healthy as well. Does that sort of answer your question? Okay, good. If it didn't answer your question, or if ever you ask a question and I don't answer it the right way, you can tell me. You'd be like, no, that's not what I wanted. Hopefully that's what you wanted. Okay. So moving laterally is super, super, super important. We are not stuck on like a little track here, doing like Olympic style fencing, for example. And I'm not dogging on it. It's just, it's different, right? They're stuck on that strip. They've got their forward and backward. They're very good at it. Time and place, in that case, that's their time and their place. For what we do, it's very easy to take advantage of somebody who's very linear and not lateral at all, simply just by stepping around, right? I should have used my sword buddy again. Okay. So I got my little sword friend here. My sword board. See if I can make this balance again in a nice way. That's very satisfying. So if I'm linear and I'm just forward, backward, forward, backward, I'm very much in danger of their point, right? However, if I come out just slightly, I'm no longer in danger of their point, right? And it opens up that side of their body. So I want to be able to throw my cuts offline. And I want to be able to, if I have room, retreat safely as well. Otherwise, I just end up walking into the point. So, I'm not sure if Sean gave you guys this one yet or not. I kind of stole this from him, or at least a variation of it from him. So, normally we did this in class with a partner. This is going to be my partner. Nice partner. But like I said, this credit goes to Sean. What I want to do is take passing steps, triangle steps, around my partner in a certain number of steps. So the goal could simply be as few steps as possible to get around, or as many like little steps just to sort of like build just like little motions, right? So what I'm going to do, and you can do this at home, literally you can do it just by putting like a dot of tape on the floor and moving around it. What I'm going to try and do is come around, okay? 1, 2, 3, and so on. And you can do different footwork. I'm not going to like make you just do one kind. What I want you to focus on is getting all the way around, but in like a sound way. So if you end up taking a passing step, you want to realign your hips to your opponent. That's also important. But then from here, where do you go? If you want to keep moving in that direction, where do you go? Well, I can't take another passing step without walking into the board, right? So maybe let's say I want to do an advancing step linearly. Boom. Right? Maybe boom, boom. I switch my feet, in and out.
We can't see you.
You can't see me.
2 you just did, we couldn't see.
Is that better?
Going to guess yes.
This is what... Dang. Okay. Basically, I want to be able to get around the board, or by whatever it is. It could be the person you're living with. It could be a dot of tape on the floor. I don't care what it is. But I want you to be able to move around it while recentering the hips and using sound footwork and sort of figuring out the puzzle of moving around. Okay? And you can move in and out, you can move laterally, but it's going to force you to break the habit of just being forward and backward and forward and backward. Because we train the forward and the backward a lot as beginners, since it's the easiest thing to do, right? Does that make sense? Yes. Good. All right. What do we have for time right now?
54.
Before. Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, what?
Got 6 minutes left.
really?
Yippee.
Wow. That went by super, super, super quick. Okay. So this is just sort of the very like most basic footwork. You're advancing, you're retreating, and you're passing steps. Okay? Doing so linearly and laterally. Passing back, I didn't cover, but it's the same thing, right? If I can pass forward, I'm gonna apply the same rules that I did for my retreating step, right? Pressing off of the front leg. But instead I'm just going to do it and pass it back, straight back through under my hip. Again, the same way, nice and straight. I don't want to like swing it out. This is gonna just come straight back, pushing from the ball of my foot on the front. So back into my passing or my fighting position. If I do that over on this side, I'm still in frame, right? Yeah. Pressing from the ball of my foot here. And back. So passing forward and backward, again, the same sort of rules apply for our advancing and our retreating. The only difference is like, again, just replacing the lead leg. That's it. The last thing I want to cover while I still have some time is, I want to do shielding footwork. No, I'm gonna wait. We're gonna talk about a gathering step. So I very often tell people when they do their advancing step or their passing step to not close the feet together. What I mean by that would be like, I advance and I bring my feet together. Okay, that's not really a great position to be in. But we have a gathering step where we end up gathering the feet together. And that ends up allowing us to move into another step. Boom. However, doing this requires like some rules. So I never want to be caught like in this position. I'm not here to do my ballet, right? This is not the position you want to get. Think about taking a passing step, bringing it together. Okay, here I'm still 50-50 weight. That's it, nice and 50-50. So that way I can move my front foot forward or my back foot forward without having to throw myself, right? From there, I can choose which foot goes where. So if in my passing, I come into a gather, 50-50 weight, maybe I want to step back again. Maybe I want to step back to the other side. Perhaps I want to come forward. This is all fine. This is all good. But some of the big things to keep in mind, ankle positions, knee positions, and 50-50 footing, right? That's one of the big things. The other thing I want to talk about, I'm not going to spend too much time on the gathering steps, those are a little bit more advanced, but I'm giving it to you right now to chew on until we get to it a little bit later. The other really important kind of thing about 50-50 weight. If I'm 50-50 footing right now, it's very easy for me to shift back or shift forward if I need to. So I want to avoid hard back weighting, except maybe, and some people don't like this theory, Sean, doing my graph guard, for example, right, where I come from here, here. This is very back weighted. However, it is pictured this way. If Sean's listening, he's probably like laughing right now because of the conversation we've had recently. It's not specifically back-weighted. It is depicted in Meyer as being heavily back-weighted, but the text actually doesn't say it. So I could technically be in graph in a 50-50 position, right? And that's fine. Keep my weight 50. but you could theoretically back weight the foot, and that's fine. Again, there are certain rules that can be broken, exceptions. If, let's say, I'm doing a leg void, for example, and there's a few different ways to do it. One, you can simply just pull the knee back, or I'm sorry, pull the foot back under the knee and sort of scoop it out. Or you can literally void the leg and bring it back out, right? There's two different kind of ways to do it. So, boom. Time and place for both, depends on what you're doing, or what's happening, but much easier to control. You've got 50-50 weight. So if I'm 50-50 right now, it's very easy for me to shift my weight a little bit to bring this back and then back up. If I'm forward weighted, it's very hard for me to bring this back without throwing myself over. Again, if I'm 50-50, I can shift the weight a little bit onto my back foot. Now I'm not 50-50, but I had that control to begin with. Boom. If I'm forward weighted, right, all my weight is on my front foot, I try to do that, it's not possible. Or I then have to move a huge amount more to bring it back, and then out. Same with these sort of leg voids like this. Right? If I'm 50-50, I have the ability to just slightly shift my weight to my back foot for control. If I'm super back weighted, I mean, yeah, I can do this all day. But do I really want to hang out here in this position? No. Same with if I'm super front weighted. That's really hard to do. I'm not even going to do that again. That just hurts. So don't try that. Just trust me that this is how it is. Because I don't want you to hurt your knees like this. But yeah, so that's just a little bit on footwork. Hopefully it was helpful in terms of like fixing some of the little body quirks that we have with it. And then of course using all of the really excellent exercises, swordless exercises that Sean gave you guys on Wednesday to make this stuff work really seamlessly. Because once you've got your footwork down, sword fighting becomes a million times easier. Trust me. And like everybody that's like really good at fencing or has any sort of like name recognition, usually they are recognized because they've got really good footwork. And I don't say all the time, but usually you can look at a fencer and it's their footwork that impresses you, even if you don't realize it. So anyway, before we wrap up, are there any questions about footwork in general? Anything I brought up? Anything I clarified? What's up? How are you guys feeling about the feet?
I'm generally feeling pretty good at feet. Also, I don't know why this beep. Sorry, this is the first time I've used this site, and I have many questions about it, but that's another thing.
Hey, wait, say that again?
This is the first time I've used this. I've only used Zoom before, and there's just a lot of weird stuff that's like just different enough that it's really counterintuitive for me. So I apologize for that.
That's okay. You're okay. Very good. Anybody else? No?
Yeah, we should be good.
Okay, then I must have done a very good job explaining it. I feel good about that.
Of course, you're the best.
What?
So of course, you're the best instructors.
I know. You don't have to tell me that, you can, I know that. I do want to show you guys one thing before you go. So, let me grab it. We have our great big Warthog decal.
That looks real cool.
That's dope.
Nice.
Ah, big one, nice.
Yeah, it's gonna go on the back wall, so it'll be visible when people walk in, I think. And then the other thing I'm gonna show you guys, I'm gonna take you for a quick walk.
God, it's moving.
Ow, damn it. So just hold on, stay put. There we go. Okay. So, get ready for a walk. So this is the studio
when you walk in, ooh,
Got real high grade lighting there.
yeah, you know what? I just need to make sure you guys can see me. So this is the space. Yeah. This is my temporary table until I get you trans table. Our flooring that Kyle put in, the mats, the nice big windows, sword rack. And then we've got the whole other big ass room, which is
Is that the Blood Eagles coat of arms?
yeah, there you go.
Man, that's super dope.
Yeah, it was hand painted. There we go. So we've got this huge space. All of our gear is going to be back here. We just moved it in. We just painted the floors so they're crisp and new and beautiful. And there's our bathroom. So that's it.
Nice.
That's the studio, guys. It's ready. Well, just about. Just got to fill it with more stuff. But other than that, we're good to go. And hopefully by May 1st, we'll be rocking.
Yeah, hopefully.
Hopefully. We'll see. As long as people like stay inside for now.
Although dying of the plague while practicing sword fighting is historically accurate.
Right? So anyway, guys, that's it. That's all I got for you. Thanks for joining me tonight. And then hopefully this got recorded. We'll find out later. And then yeah, next class is Sunday. We're going to be doing Shield Burn, which is all about the Shield How workout, nothing but exercise on Sunday morning. So yeah, we'll see you then, guys.
Thanks, Britt.
Yeah.
Bye.
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 I think broke it. Well, let me see.